Hey guys, welcome to NeuroArkitect, where we guide and help you develop physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual fitness. And my name is Tom. And today, we're going to talk about the holidays and beautiful fun stress that they often tend to bring. Now, fun fact, stress is a natural part of life, right? We're not going to ever be able to avoid it, but we can always change our relationship to it. And I think it's not the point of this conversation, but I think it's really sad that we tend to associate the holidays with this period of stress. More often than not, it's just us procrastinating and then getting overwhelmed with last minute things to do, meanwhile trying to juggle so many other different things. But A, that's obviously avoidable. Just plan ahead. B, we do, of course, meet certain people in certain situations around this time. That can be a little challenging. And although we can't necessarily avoid the challenges, we can't necessarily avoid the stress, we can change how we engage it, how we react to it, how we actually choose to respond to it, right? It's about creating resilience, mental, emotional resilience. So that way we can increase our threshold for that stress, increase our ability to operate and navigate that. So today I'm going to give you a few practical, very simple, very easy to do things, all related to breath, right? Because that is one of the easiest, fastest ways that we can shift our mood, shift our brainwave states, shift our whole entire biochemistry, and actually move from a state of fight or flight into a more grounded, centered state. So I'm going to provide you with a few breathing practices, different ones that you can apply in different situations in different ways. Before I do that, I'm going to give you sort of like a 2-minute, I know it's, a lot of people tell me I tend to go off on tangents. A lot of people tell me I like to talk a lot about the things that I love to talk about. It's because I love it. It's passionate about it. But I'm also trying not to overwhelm you with too much of the science, but it's nice to have a little bit of the context, right? Because then you know why you're doing what you're doing. So I'm going to make individual videos in the future that actually go a little deeper into the practices, into what's happening inside the body. But for today's purpose, as you guys are all off doing your Christmas shopping and visiting family and friends and going to holiday parties and trying to make the most of this really beautiful time of the year, because the holidays were meant to celebrate. They're supposed to be fun, a good time to connect, to live, to love, to laugh. But again, not the point of this video. Context time. Okay, so when it comes to breath work, when it comes to breathing, right? Every single time we inhale, what happens is we activate the sympathetic nervous system. When we exhale, we activate the parasympathetic. So we inhale, heart rate speeds up. We exhale, heart rate slows down, right? Fight or flight, rest and digest. Fight or flight, rest and digest. It's this constant flow in and out, right? So for a moment, think about what happens when we tend to breathe in longer than we exhale, right? So the inhale is longer than the exhale. We're actually more in our sympathetic fight or flight state versus our parasympathetic rest and digest, right? Now, if you were to reverse that and have a shorter inhale, but a nice long smooth exhale, you're actually activating more of the parasympathetic. So you're really telling the body to calm down, right? So that's a very, very, very key important thing to understand. Now, one thing I will say as well, when we are going about our day-to-day, we want to be breathing with our nose all the time. Even when you're exercising, challenging yourselves, really pushing yourselves to try to breathe with the nose as much as you can, okay? Patrick McKeown really helped lay the science out for the world about why that's so key, so important. His book, The Oxygen Advantage, and actually I have this other book, The Breathing Cure, right here in the corner. You can see it. Pretty much outlines all the science. It's like the Bible to breath work and the science behind breathing. So we inhale, we exhale, sympathetic, parasympathetic. When we extend the exhale, we are able to calm the nervous system down very quickly. Now, one other thing to note is levels of carbon dioxide in the body. If they are too high or too low, we will create a state of stress, right? You're going to see this asynchronous firing in neurons in the brain. For some people, it can even predispose them, in really severe cases, to symptoms of like schizophrenia or epileptic seizures on the extreme end. But nevertheless, we need to have a healthy ratio and balance of carbon dioxide to oxygen inside the body. It also allows the body to extract more oxygen when we have proper levels of CO2 in the body. Now, when we find ourselves in a bit of a panicked state, in really stressful situation, what's good is to actually dump a lot of that CO2 out, right, very quickly. And this is from Andrew Huberman's lab, his work. Brilliant neuroscience guy from, I believe, Stanford, PhD, everything. Love his podcast. Highly recommend you follow him, listen to what he's got to say. But what you can do in a situation like that, and you can actually do this for a few rounds, even up to 5 minutes if you'd like, but even just a one breath, where you take a full deep inhale in, and then when you can't breathe in anymore, you take one last sip. And then slow, long, gentle, smooth exhale out. And that last extra little sip really tells the alveoli and the lungs to just dump a lot of that extra stored CO2. And it can really bring that state of stress down. Now, of course, moving on, what are some other ways where we can apply that understanding of inhale to exhale? Another really great technique is the 478 breathing technique that's been popularized by Dr. Andrew Weil. Essentially, you're inhaling for a count of 4, you're holding your breath for a count of 7, then you're exhaling for a count of 8, and you continue that for a few cycles, right? Again, in this case, you're seeing that the exhale is twice as long as the inhale, so again, it's really telling the body, hey, stay in parasympathetic mode. The breath hold is actually a very, very cool addition to that, because breath retention really helps the body, also the brain, produce more alpha brainwave activity, which just puts us into this sort of like flow-like state, right? So that's really great. And one other technique I'll tell you, without giving you too many to work with, but definitely those two, is coherence breathing, right? Where you're actually inhaling and exhaling at an equal ratio of 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. But when you do so, you are actually eyes closed, imagining the breath flowing into the chest and out from the chest, right? 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And what that does is it actually allows both hemispheres of the brain to communicate more readily, more effectively with one another. The inhale and the exhale are the same. If some of you may be familiar with box breathing, which is typically used in extreme states, right? The Marines, when they go into a mission or whatever the case might be, they don't necessarily want to be super stressed out where they can't operate and perform their duties, but they also don't want to be too mellow where they can't actually perform their duties, right? In those states. And what you want is to be able to stay calm, grounded, centered, but also focused and alert. And and box breathing is essentially 5 second inhale, hold for 5, exhale for 5, hold for 5, inhale 5, hold 5, exhale 5, hold 5. You can continue that. And again, that's another one that you can add to your tool belt. But this one, coherence breathing, right? Again, same thing. You are keeping the ratio the same, right? So it's an equal balance of parasympathetic and sympathetic activity. But the visualization going into the heart, you're actually helping the heart produce more coherent patterns, and the heart's electromagnetic field starts to also interface with the brain's electromagnetic field, and you see more smooth sine-like brainwaves, right? So you're in a more balanced, coherent state. What happens to the body and the heart can also start to produce more oxytocin, which then allows the body to release nitric oxide, which dilates your blood vessels, improves blood vessel endothelial functions, improves blood flow. That's what I meant to say. And which is, of course, all around great. Also happens when you are inhaling and exhaling with the nose, you produce more nitric oxide that way, which again dilates the blood vessels, super antiviral, antimicrobial, great little molecule to have floating around your bloodstream. So coherence breathing. So I'm going to leave you guys with those. You are going to, of course, in moments of like extreme stress, deep long inhale, extra sip, long exhale, right? You can adopt the 4-7-8 breathing pattern as well. You can do all of these for about 5 minutes or so. And you can also do the coherence breath work that I just demonstrated, but you can also throw in the box breathing as well, because you'll get a lot of additional benefits where you can still stay centered and grounded, but alert and focused and able to go about your day and operate and navigate. So, although stress is an inevitable part of life, right? Challenging situations are inevitable parts of our lives. We can always train our ability to meet them, to handle them, to navigate those situations. And the calmer and more centered and grounded we are, the more effective and more productive we can be, the more efficient we can be, the more focused we can be, because we then don't lose activity in the frontal lobes, right? Which allow us to do those things at a better rate. So, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Have an amazing, amazing holiday. With all the running around and everything else that you're probably doing, don't get overwhelmed, right? Plan things out, lean on for support. You have a community, you have people, you have family, you have friends. Use them, all right? Guys, have a beautiful one, and I will see you next time.